In this video, I'm going to be talking about the reincarnation of Earth through several stages and the spiritual hierarchies involved. Just as man passes from one incarnation to another, so does every being in the universe from the smallest to the greatest. And Earth, being a planetary being, is also a reincarnation of a former planet. This former planet is called Moon. And it's not the moon that we know in the present day. That is only a part or a remnant of this former condition. This former condition existed, and just like man, up to the point of death, passed through a spiritual state called pralaya. And this lunar condition is also a reincarnation of a former planet called Sun. Again, this is not the sun that we know today, but quite a different being. And in its turn, this sun is an incarnation of the first planet, the very ancient Saturn. So we have 4 successive incarnations. From the oldest, we have ancient Saturn, then we have Sun, then we have Moon, then we have Earth. Each planetary condition has its special tasks. Earth's task was that man would become an I being or an ego being. Former conditions, others passed through and became human with similar tasks, and now they are at a higher stage than man. The Egyptian sage told the student of the mysteries a great truth. It was a truth of great importance that the gods were once men, and the gods, they had to accept the truth that the gods above them in the spiritual heights were not always gods, but that they had risen to those heights. They were once men who passed through the human stage. And this was a great truth, but a dangerous truth. Because from this, the student deduced that he would one day become a god. And so a student could say to himself, a man does not become a god unless he is ripe for it. And if for one moment he believes he is a god before he is ready, he will not become a god. He will become a fool. So misunderstandings often arise when contemplating the sayings of the ancients because one no longer differentiates between the different realms of divine beings. See, Western sages like Dionysius always differentiated between different degrees. So whether they were talking about angels or Dianchohans, one who realized the unity of cosmic wisdom realized that these two names are merely one and the same thing, but we have to learn how to differentiate in this realm. So the angels, one stage higher than humans, and they are the messengers of the divine spirit world. Then we have the archangels, which are 2 stages higher than us and 1 stage higher than the angels, also called archangeloi. They are known as also the spirits of fire. And then we have 1 degree even higher, which are called the archai. Now, the archai are also known as the spirits of personality or the primeval beginnings. Thus, we have 3 degrees that stand above men. They all passed through their human stage, though. They were all once men. See, angels were human not so long ago on Old Moon. The archangels passed their human stage on Old Sun, and the archai on Ancient Saturn. These beings rose by degrees and became higher beings, but they all passed through the human stage at one point. With our Earth, you have the mineral, plant, and animal kingdoms. Starting with the angels, you have an invisible kingdom. And when they were rising in their evolution, the planet was different than it is today, and it gradually changed. On Ancient Saturn, the conditions were very different than our Earth is today. Of all the elements, earth, air, water, and fire, fire or warmth was the only thing that existed on Saturn. If you were to fly through Saturn, it would be like you would have seen nothing, but you would have felt warmth, an inward warmth. And it would have been sort of like you were in a heated oven, except you would not have been able to draw any air because there was no air. You would not have been able to swim because there was no water. And you would not have been able to stand anywhere because there was no earth or ground. So the ancient sage Heraclitus, he would have been right when he said everything comes from fire, because as it is, Earth is just a transmuted Saturn, and it had gradually came from nothing but warmth or fire. So the Archai, spirits of personality, or the primeval beginnings, pass through their human stage on Saturn in quite different conditions than our Earth today. See, man of Earth today can take in solids, gases, and liquids into his bone and blood system, whereas the Archai on ancient Saturn had to fashion their bodies entirely out of warmth. An inner warmth that gradually changed to a warmth that was outwardly realized. And this is how Saturn developed. An inner soul warmth that was gradually changed to an external warmth, or what we would call fire. And at first we have the inner warming process of Saturn in this globe, and then it was possible for the spirits of personality to incarnate. While they were incarnating, what we call external warmth was produced. So if you were to voyage to Saturn through the later stages, you would have had outer impressions of warmth and also of cold. If you were to draw these self-contained bodies of warmth, what you would have seen would have been eggs all over the surface clustering. And these eggs from the outside resembled blackberries or raspberries. Now, what were these eggs? They were the bodies of the spirits of personality. And it is precisely through the inner warmth that the spirits of personality were able to build their external bodies of warmth, these Saturn eggs. It may be truly said of this condition that the spirits brooded over the warmth and brought forth the first bodies of fire. And if we may so express it, in that region of warmth, the external warmth eggs coagulated out of this inner warmth. Out of universal space, the first bodies of fire were hatched, and the spirits of personality, or the Archai, were incarnated in them. And ancient Saturn consisted of nothing but this fire. You can compare the life of Saturn to an in and out breathing. At one point, Saturn would have drawn in all the inner warmth. And at another point, you would have came and you would have seen the external eggs of warmth, and you would have said that Saturn has breathed out all its warmth, and all around you is external fire. However, this breathing was only of fire, as air did not exist yet. And so the Archai, if left to themselves, would have drawn in all this warmth, and there would have been no further incarnations of sun, moon, and earth. However, they left a part of themselves, and they didn't draw it all in, and these Saturn eggs, some of them remained. Why did they do this? By leaving a part of themselves out, they differentiated an outer and an inner. And by doing so, they were able to establish an I, because you can only perceive an I when there is something outside of yourself. So they left a part of this, and they entered the state called pralaya, which is the planetary rest. This is where the thrones, which are higher beings, they came in and they had to dissolve Saturn, right? The Archai couldn't do it by themselves, so these higher beings dissolved Saturn, but they could only do so for a while, for a season. For a bit of time, the Saturn eggs were dissolved, and the Saturn entered a planetary rest for a season. And then the second metamorphosis of Saturn happened, which is the sun condition. And by leaving a part of the Saturn eggs, the spirits of personality had to return to fulfill the karma that they prepared for themselves. See, by leaving a part of their own essence, a part of their own being, they had to return. It drew them downwards into a new planetary existence. They reappeared as air or smoke on the one hand and light on the other. So on Ancient Sun, the warmth was divided into lower and higher aspects. Inwardly, this transformed Saturn was gas, air, or smoke, and on the other side was light. If you would have traveled through space and come upon this ancient sun, you would have perceived from afar that which had formed itself into light because behind it was smoke. And if you would have penetrated this ball of light on the inside, you would have felt streaming from all sides air, gas, or smoke. And so, thus, your ball of warmth has transformed into a shining orb. You see, a sun has come into being. And one is fully justified in calling it a sun because the shining orbs that are suns today are going through this very same process. Inside, they are balls of gas, air, or smoke, and that transforms itself on the outside into light, light that streams into space from all sides. In the warmth of ancient Saturn, the spirits of personality became human. Now, in the light that streams from the sun, the archangels become human. Just as you have a body and soul today, so as the archangels were men, they had an inner life of warmth, which rayed forth light, and they had an outer body consisting of gas or smoke. By means of the light, they let their shining force stream out into universal space. By means of the fire, they lived an inner life. They experienced the comfort of warmth. Through their gas bodies, they lived on the sun planet itself. They could now differentiate their own bodies from the general substance on the sun planet. During alternating conditions, the archangels had inhaled all the gas and taken it within themselves. We now have a process of real breathing. You would have felt that the currents on Ancient Sun were a process of breathing. You would have found in absolute stillness that the archangels had breathed in all the gas. And as the archangels began to breathe it out again, you would have felt those inner currents begin to flow and light start to ray forth. So we have the sun as light raying forth and on the inside filled with smoke. Now this smoke began to take on forms of regular shape. It began to be distinct pictures, take distinct pictures with an inner life. And you could actually say that these eggs were hatching into definite forms, and that these definite forms of gas or smoke were the bodies of the archangels. Ancient Saturn was transformed into sun, on which the archangels found it possible to pass through their human stage. And so it is with our sun. The light that shines out into space is the light of the life of spiritual messengers, the archangels. The name archangels actually means messengers of the archai. They proclaim to the universe in rays of light the former existence of Saturn, of warmth-filled archai. So we have archangels, the messengers of the archai. And so the archangels were men of the sun. Up next, we will talk about how the zodiac is related to these spiritual hierarchies and what the war in heaven was.